Thank you all for joining us today. We are going to be looking at the Festival of Weeks. We will also be talking about when to celebrate this festival and how to celebrate this festival. The world has holidays, but Yah has his festivals that we are to observe. The Festival of Weeks, also known as the Festival of Harvest, it's known as Shavuot, and the Greeks call it Pentecost. It is a wheat offering. In the days when we farm, we were to bring a portion of the blessings that Yah, our Elohim, has blessed and allowed our labor of farming to be fruitful. Remembering that Yah was the one, and he still is the one, to bring the rain and to bring the sun to enable our crops to grow. Amen. When we look at Passover, we see that the barley ripens at that time. And when we look at the Festival of Weeks, we see that the wheat harvests at that time. And the grapes ripen at the time of tabernacles. This is one way that our ancestors knew when it was time to have these festivals. Everything, all the festivals were linked to harvest time. Today, most of us don't farm, but we need to ask Yah to show us how to get back to our roots of farming. I mean, the Festival of Weeks is first mentioned in Exodus 34, verses 22 to 23. And I'm going to let you read that on your own. And we're going to start with Deuteronomy chapter 16, verses 9 through 12. Hallelujah. The Festival of Weeks. And it reads, you must count 7 weeks from the time you begin to harvest the grain. Then celebrate the Festival of Harvest for Yah, your Elohim. Do this by bringing him some special gifts you want to bring. Decide how much to give by thinking about how much Yah, your Elohim, has blessed you. Go to the place Yah will choose to be the home for your name. You and your people should enjoy yourselves together there with Yah, your Elohim. Take all of your people with you, your sons, your daughters, and your servants. And take the Levites, the foreigners, the orphans, the widows living in your towns. Remember, you were slaves in Egypt, so be sure to obey these laws. Hallelujah. So, when do we celebrate this important festival? This festival gets its name from the fact that it starts 7 full weeks, or exactly 50 days after the Feast of First Fruits. Since it takes place exactly 50 days after the previous feast, this feast to the Greeks is known as Pentecost, which means 50. This feast is also in Acts 2 and 1, and it reads, when the day of Pentecost came, They were all together in one place. Acts 20 and 16 reads, Paul had decided to sail past Ephesus to avoid spending time in the province of Asia. So he was in a hurry to reach Jerusalem, if possible, by the day of Pentecost. So we see that the Festival of Weeks is in the first covenant and it's also in the renewed covenant. The Feast of Weeks, or the Festival of Weeks, was and still is a celebration of the first fruits of the wheat harvest. To the Hebrew Israelites, this time of celebration is known as Shavuot, which means weeks. This festival occurs in late spring. Unlike other feasts that begin on a specific day of the Hebrew calendar, this one is calculated as being 50 days to the day after the seventh Shabbat, or the seventh Sabbath. And you can read all about this in Leviticus 23, verses 15 through 16, and Deuteronomy 16, verses 9 through 10. Yahusha was crucified as the Passover lamb, and he is our first fruits. Following his resurrection, Yahusha spent the next 40 days teaching his disciples before ascending to heaven. Acts 1 reads, 50 days after his resurrection, and after ascending to heaven to sit at the right hand of Elohim, Yahusha sent the Spirit of truth as promised. John chapter 14, verse 16 through 17 reads, And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. The world cannot accept him because it neither sees him nor knows him, for he lives with you and will be in you. The disciples were commanded to wait at Jerusalem until he came. Acts 1 and 4. The coming of the day of the Spirit of truth would occur on the next Hebrew Kodesh Day. It is a festival when the Hebrews from different countries were to be in Jerusalem to celebrate the completion of the harvest season. The annual festival was none other than Shavuot, or the Festival of Weeks. The disciples waited as they were commanded. However, their wait was not long. It was only 10 days. The Spirit of truth descended. The Spirit of truth indwelled the disciples and empowered them. And the Spirit of truth lives on the inside of each and every one of us. The promise of the Spirit of truth arrived on Shavuot. It arrived on the Festival of Weeks. It arrived on Pentecost. Hallelujah. It just depends on how you decide you're going to call this particular festival, what you're going to call this particular festival. Hallelujah. In Jubilees, chapter 6, verses 15 through 22, it verifies the book of Jubilees, which is in the Apocrypha. It verifies the observance of the Festival of Weeks, which we know as Shavuot, which we also know as Pentecost, is traced to the appearance of the first rainbow. the day on which Yah made his covenant with Noah. Now, how do we celebrate the Feast of Weeks? Well, it is a Shabbat, and we are not to work, but we are to worship Yah, and we are to have a feast and remember how Yah has blessed us and our family members. Worship Yah and feast with your family and with your friends. And don't forget to give to the needy, as we are always commanded to do so. And you can find this in Leviticus 23:22. I am sure there is someone in need in your local community. I mean, Malachi 3:6 says, I am Yah and I do not change. Let's celebrate, hallelujah, Yah's feast days. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Shalom, shalom, family.